Hello everybody and welcome to the Thanet Round-Up video. If you remember my last Round-Up video for Doncaster, that one was very much an experiment to see if I could make these using a narration or voiceover technique. And whilst I wasn't 100% happy with it, I think this time I've managed to create something much better using a mixture of both the old Round-Up format and this new technique. Hopefully going forward this is something I can stick to. Anyway, here's what you lovely people of Thanet have sent me about the 11 parishes in your small slice of Kent. Let's go. Beginning with Acol. When I was stood on the green, I was facing a couple of new builds next to what was once the village pub, the Crown and Sceptre, on the corner of Margate Hill. It sold at auction for £152,000. The property went under the hammer at a Cleve auction in 2017. And on the opposite corner is a house that was once a village shop. The other shop and post office were opposite the village hall. There you can find the village postbox set into the wall of what is now a residential property. There are a few lovely older cottages in the village too that date back to the 1800s. A second pub, the Shepherd and Neame, closed in 2012. It was put onto the market for £240,000, but only one offer was received and was later withdrawn. In 2013 it was sold for a sum below the original asking price, but deemed unsuitable to open as a pub again. The owners were made to carry out repairs on the 17th century structure to make it weather-tight again. Hidden away in the countryside, upon King William's Mount between Minster and Acol, is Cleve Court, a part Tudor, part Elizabethan, part Georgian house. Over the years it's had some famous and infamous residents, one being Baroness Orczy, who was born in Hungary and educated in Brussels and Paris before moving to London aged 15. With her husband she wrote and illustrated children's stories before her first novel, The Emperor's Candlesticks, which was published in 1899. But her biggest success came in 1902 when she wrote The Scarlet Pimpernel, but not before 12 publishers had rejected it. In 1920, Lord Edward Henry Carson, an Irish Unionist politician, barrister and judge, moved into it. The building I asked about is a manor house, which recently changed hands for around £1 million, and with regards to my comments about the street being dangerous, residents are campaigning for another road, but they've been asking since 1996, with seemingly no success. Moving on to Birchington. Birchington is actually a village and does not have town status. It's the largest village in Kent, and apparently the residents are quite proud of this. The Cycle Works owner was the first to design a woman's bike, which was a big thing at the time, as women weren't allowed to ride alone in early Victorian times, and doctors frowned upon women for cycling, saying it was unhealthy. Birchington has the oldest surviving bungalow in the UK, one of the first ever built, named Fair Outlook, dating from 1870. Two architects spotted a gap in the 1860s housing market and wanted to appeal to the wealthy Victorian, who wanted a quiet holiday home near the sea. John Taylor had seen these in India and they were known as bangalows or bungalows, which means of Bengal. Eventually the word became bungalow and the first ones were built between 1870 and 1890. The granite structure in the square is known as the Birchington Well. It was the centre of the roundabout in decades past, but the road layout has since changed. The square has some outlandish April Fool's decorations every year thanks to an anonymous group of locals. These have a different theme every year. There are two other parks, Crisp Park, which is just along from the Smuggler restaurant on Canterbury Road, which has a nice little bit of woodland, and Memorial Park, which is near Quex. So for Broadstairs and St Peter's, we start with Westwood Cross. The Canterbury Bell and surrounding places are part of Old Westwood. A lot of people lost their houses to create space for the shopping centre. The small chapel I passed is the site of the Star of the Sea Shrine, the oldest building in Broadstairs. Don't be fooled by the peace at Joss Bay. In summer, tens of thousands flock to Thanet for the lovely beaches. Joss Bay has relief parking in the farmers' fields, but unfortunately Botany Bay doesn't have that luxury, and the local housing estates have ongoing battles with parking. Mocket's Wood is near the church behind the co-op. There's a community group that help look after it, along with the Woodland Trust. It covers only 2 acres, but it's another peaceful place to walk. Crampton's Tower at the top of Broadstairs High Street is an 80-foot flint tower built by Crampton in 1859 as part of the waterworks. It now houses a railway museum and has events throughout the year. Next is Cliffsend. The planned and mainly unwanted Parkway station is yet to be built. Many residents fear the lovely village feeling of Cliffsend could soon be ruined. Regarding the sea defences that I mentioned, they're still down there. They are anti-tank defences, also known as Dragon's Teeth. There was a secret World War I port just round the corner called Export, located in Richborough, and we'll see that when we cover Dover. There was a large Bronze Age settlement just to the north, going back further in history, which is just along the modern-day Cliffsend Road. Not much for Manston. As I suspected, at the end of the video I was indeed in Lyddon. The chapel at the end of the High Street is now a private residence, and it used to be a Methodist church called Living Waters, owing to an underground spring there. Next is Minster. The odd building I asked about in Minster was the BT telephone exchange building, and the old building with the signs on the side of it was a little shop. There are mooring rings on the back of the church dating from the times when the Wantsum lapped at its walls. The other buildings mentioned at the Hurricane and Spitfire Museum are in fact a separate museum. This is the RAF Manston History Museum. The Spitfire at Manston TB752 was known as the Gate Guardian and stood outside until it was restored, and the museum was built in the early 1980s. It was accredited with the last combat encounter in World War II between Allied and German warplanes, and shot down a Heinkel HEL-111 in 1945. Manston Runway is still amongst one of the widest in Europe. Now to Monkton. The explosion referred to in the video was on Who Farm, caused by gas bottles on site that exploded. The primary school was damaged during a 1989 storm, and there used to be a capping stone on the west wing to commemorate the event with this inscribed. Also worth a mention is Abbott's Wall on Monkton Marshes. In the 12th century, the monks tried to manage the Wantsum Channel, but their plans failed. The wall is one of two remaining walls from this attempt, the other being Monk's Wall. There are some wooden stocks about 30 metres northwest of the church, and they are just in shot in the original video. These are Grade 2 listed and were once used as punishment for minor offences, usually vagabonds or drunkards. In Easter 1991, the TV show Crime Watch covered the notorious murders of Alan Leopard and Brenda Long, which to this day remain unsolved. Alan, 43, was gunned down outside his cottage next to the pub on Easter Monday. He was found dead by his partner Brenda, who 8 months later was herself drowned in the bath in a suspicious death. Several witnesses reported seeing a large white Cadillac-style American car in the village at the time of Alan's murder. The Fox Hunter Park used to have flamingos in the water garden out the front, along with black swans and a pair of peacocks that would roam the village. There were a pair of large blue macaw parrots that would fly around the park, but as the years went on, they would often terrorise both people and their dogs. The building to the right of the pub was once the village shop and post office. People would often come to take pictures of the post box in the wall, as it was a fairly rare Victorian design. Various celebrities would stay at Fox Hunter Park and come to the shop, including various EastEnders stars, some of the cast of Only Fools and Horses, and most notably, Eric Clapton. Ramsgate now. Ramsgate tunnels were originally part of the train station for Ramsgate. The steps leading to the beach are called the Augusta Steps. The Kent Steps are near the lift a little further away, and the RNLI station in Ramsgate is situated in the middle of the harbour. The terrace near St Augustine's is called Chartham Terrace as opposed to Chatham Terrace, which is probably why I couldn't find any information about it online. Right next door to St Augustine's is the house of Augustus Pugin. He designed the interior of the Houses of Parliament, purposely building his house looking out over the sea. On the seafront, local artists and schoolchildren from all over the Isle of Thanet have painted amazing murals. These walls are painted blue, with memorial benches for people to rest, and the history of the island is depicted. Moving on to Sarre. Sarre is indeed French. It was once spelt Sarre, and as I alluded to in the beginning of the video in the captions, it is indeed pronounced Sarre. Ecclesiastically, the parish joined St Nicholas when the vicarage was dissolved and the ancient church of St Giles fell into disrepair and collapsed. When the windmill was under construction, one of 7 Anglo-Saxon cemeteries was discovered, containing a woman adorned with gold objects and gold woven into her clothes. Some of these objects are now in the British Museum. The mill had working displays of farm machinery back in the late 1980s. Not much for St Nicholas at Wade. Further along down Barton Road, turning into Summer Road, there are some more fabulous views to go with the ones at the beginning of the video. And I received a message from one of the bell ringers who told me the bells here are the heaviest 6 bells in all of Kent. Now, by far my favourite parish in Thanet was Westgate-on-Sea, and I got quite a bit of information for this one. The building I liked was the front to a stable yard, and the building I asked the locals about is Summerlands Lodge. This was erected as a purpose-built preparatory school in 1906. Its original name was Doon House, and the foundation stone was laid by Mrs. C.H.W. Rees, and the building took the name Doon House from the earlier adjoining building. The school remained in these premises until it was evacuated to Herefordshire in 1940. During World War II, the property was occupied by officers from RAF Manston. After the war, the school did not return to Westgate-on-Sea, and in 1946 it was bought by the Royal British Legion as a nursing and convalescent home and renamed Morris Lodge. Later it became the head office for a construction company, and in the mid-1980s it became Summerlands Lodge, a nursing home, and since it closed in the 2000s, it's been bought by a local property developer for use as flats. Artist William Quiller Orchardson is buried in Westgate-on-Sea and built Ivy Cottage where he had a studio. The old Coast Guard house and cottages are the oldest properties in Westgate-on-Sea, and there's generally more a modern part of Westgate-on-Sea to the south of the A28. That's everything I received. Thanks very much everyone for all the fabulous information. Thanet is a beautiful part of this country, and I thoroughly enjoyed making these 11 parish videos. I will of course be back to Kent in the future, but for now I've got plenty to do up here in the north. Next time I'm down in Kent though, I'll make sure to let you guys in Thanet know, because I'm sure there's way more you can tell me about the rest of the county. Until then, this has been the District of Thanet, and I've been the Village Idiot, and I'm out.